Moving on and to Senegal now, and organisers have delayed a protest march that was to be held later today after authorities banned it. It follows a controversial move to delay this month's presidential poll in December and thus extend President Macky Sall's term. Opposition supporters have been calling for a massive silent protest in the capital, Dakar. Joining me now from London is Paul Melly, an Africa specialist at Chatham House. Paul, thank you very much for your time. To begin with, why did President Sall decide to delay the election, and how much support does he actually have for such a move from the Senegalese public in general?
Well, his official reason for delaying the election was that the supporters in Parliament of Karim Wade, an opposition politician who did not successfully qualify for the election, were protesting over they want an inquiry over the way that the Constitutional Court had behaved in deciding that this candidate, Karim Wade, could not run. But the real reason most Senegalese believe why Macky Sall has delayed the election is because it was becoming increasingly clear that his preferred successor, the government candidate in this election, the Prime Minister Amadou Ba, was set for defeat. Amadou Ba is a highly capable technocrat, a former finance minister and foreign minister before rising to the premiership, but he is not a charismatic campaigner who's good at the sort of street side of politics of reaching out to the voters. And after two Macky Sall terms and a lot of controversy in the last couple of years over the government's handling of demonstrations and complaints about political pressures on the judiciary, the momentum is with the opposition, and the Prime Minister looked set for defeat. So many people think that's the real reason why Macky Sall decided to postpone the election, to give himself space to see if he can find an alternative succession candidate. But this has caused such a huge row because Senegal has deep-rooted constitutional traditions. No one has delayed an election before. Everything has always happened on time in the past.
So which groups are driving these protests, Paul?
Well, basically a very wide range of the opposition, as well as civil society. Senegal has a sort of vigorous civil society movement who've been involved over the years in various campaigns over cost of living issues as well as questions of civil rights. But right at the heart of this are the key opposition movements, including that of Ousmane Sonko, the charismatic anti-corruption campaigner, also someone who has often resorted to a very inflammatory language himself, but who is hugely popular among youth. And he's currently in jail, and he was excluded from the election because of a conviction for defaming a minister in the government a few months ago, whom he accused of corruption, but then couldn't prove it. And so his supporters, Senegalese youth in general, are very fired up. There's huge youthful impatience, a big appetite for change, and people really feel very strongly about this. It's not really about Macky Sall's record in government. He's managed the economy quite well. He's created jobs. The economy is growing. Senegal has managed its debts carefully. Big investment has gone into rural development to help the half of the population who still live in villages in the countryside. So it's not really about that, but it's about his handling, if you like, of governance issues, civil rights, and political pressure on the courts. That's what's angering people.
Now, ECOWAS, the regional body, has called on the government to restore the original election timetable and sent a delegation to Dakar to mediate in the crisis. Is the government going to heed their call?
It's going to be very difficult. I think Senegal is usually seen as one of the most stable countries in the region, a sort of pillar, if you like, of the political establishment in the ECOWAS bloc. And because of its long record of democratic government, multi-party politics, is normally one of the countries involved in crisis management rather than finding itself the subject of a probe itself. So the Nigerian president, who was due to come to Senegal yesterday as a as a sort of lead envoy for ECOWAS. He has postponed his visit. It's not quite clear whether he will come. It may be that the signal from the Senegalese government is that any possibility of progress or mediation is going to have to be something lower profile, something that allows people to save face all round. The two currently surviving former presidents of Senegal, both elderly gentlemen, Abdoulaye Wade and Abdou Diouf, they have both called for calm, pacification, and it's possible that Senegal's powerful religious leaders, very influential in Senegal, where religious brotherhoods, Sufi religious brotherhoods, have the allegiance of a very large part of the population, they may play a big role in trying to find some sort of calmer negotiated outcome. But the clock is ticking because Macky Sall's official term was due to end on the 2nd of April. And many people dispute whether his postponement of the election is actually constitutional. So if there isn't a resolution in time, either for him to hand over on the 2nd of April as originally planned, or for an agreed sort of election prolongation, rather than the one forced through Parliament by government supporters to the end of the year, which many people don't accept, things could get very difficult over the next few weeks.
Paul Melly, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.